I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. It's Sarah Schlessinger. She's the Executive Director of the Texas Water Foundation. She previously worked in groundwater policy and regulation and has experience with international nonprofits with interest in water policy. She currently serves as an appointed member of the Water Conservation Advisory Council and holds a Master of Science in Water Science, Policy, and Management from the University of Oxford. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Sarah Schlessinger.
Hello. It is a touch colder up here than I thought it was going to be. I'm just going to open up this presentation. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I have the honor of joining you over your lunch to tell you a little bit about our thoughts on water conservation. And how do we do this? Perfect. At the Texas Water Foundation, we believe that everything you love about Texas is rooted in water. It is the lifeblood of our flourishing population, our thriving economy, and our wild array of landscapes. And as we heard from Director Brooke Popp, our population is indeed flourishing. Many of you will be familiar with some of the doomsday statistics that are shown to us on a regular basis. Our state demographer has predicted that between 2020, which in case anybody has forgotten is this year, and 2070, that our population is set to increase by more than 70%. And with that, our water demands are projected to increase, and our existing water supplies are expected to decrease. Steve Walther will tell you that I'm not a bookkeeper. Is he even here? That was going to be a good inside joke. No. All right. But I don't think it takes a bookkeeper to be able to look at this and say, hey, there's something wrong with that. We're going to have a water budget issue, right? So what are we going to do about it? Oh, y'all, sorry. I was changing the slides over here and wasn't doing it over here. This is a bad system. All right, so here are the statistics that I just listed. What are we going to do about it? Well, fortunately, as again we heard from Director Brooke Popp, we have a plan. And it's a really good plan. In fact, internationally, we are known for having one of the most progressive approaches to statewide water planning. And exactly what it does is it looks at future population increases and future water demands, and it suggests water management strategies to meet that future demand. So that's exactly the reason why it's built, how it's designed. And in the 2017 State Water Plan, it would provide 8.5 million acre-feet per year of additional water supplies by 2070. Well, that's great. So we have a plan, right? We're looking at our water budget, we're predicting it, we're coming up with innovative solutions. Well, what people don't realize is that approximately 30% of those future water supplies are expected to come from water conservation. Almost 45% of the future water supplies are made up of conservation plus reuse specifically. So the question is, how are we going to achieve that number? That seems like a lot, right? So we have these financial incentives coming through the Texas Water Development Board. We have a number of innovations. The things that you're hearing about over the course of today, looking at more efficient crop systems, looking at technology, these are all incredible water management strategies. But what I'd like to propose to you today is that there is another strategy for achieving conservation. And it's a strategy that is not in the State Water Plan and one that we don't talk about often. And that strategy is people. People are one of the most valuable resources and strategies that we have for making good conservation decisions. And the reason why is because people make decisions. So all of the amazing technology and innovation that we have or financial incentives are nothing if we don't have people who are making the decisions to employ it and looking holistically at that water budget. So the reason why I start with this is because I want to tell you a little bit about the Texas Water Foundation, what we're doing, our programs, and specifically two of them that we're hoping are going to directly invest in people making better decisions towards water conservation and leading Texas into a sustainable water future. So Texas Water Foundation was created in 1998 by Senator Buster Brown, who at the time was chairman of Senate Natural Resources. And he created it at about the same time that they created the state water plan. And he created it specifically for the purpose of providing education to Texans on the vital role that water plays in their lives. And that mission has continued to be at the root of what we do, but it's expanded a little bit. And it's expanded to 4 key strategies in our strategic plan. The first is to create champions of sustainable water. The second is to equip advocates. The third is to create an educated public. That's the continuation of that effort. And the third is to build the next generation of water leaders. So what you'll notice by looking at those 4 strategic goals is that they all have people involved in them. And as a hook, an incentive to stay awake, I know it's really cold, I'm gonna say that we're gonna bring people back into this at the end of this presentation, and there may or may not be pictures of Beyonce and Chuck Norris at the end of this. So we're gonna come back around to people and how important they are. So the way that we're gonna achieve those 4 goals is around 3 programs: in leadership, in education, and in policy. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about each of those and then focus in particularly on education. On the leadership side, we are going to be launching a course called Water Fluency. And if you think about fluency, think specifically about being fluent in a language, right? So that's what we mean, and of course there's the wonderful water pun that gets associated with it. And this is a fluency program specifically designed for decision makers that are outside of the water sector. So remember earlier when I said, why are people important as one of our best resources for water conservation? Because people are decision makers. The way that I see it, there are 3 different categories of decision makers in the water sector. There are decision makers in the water sector, there are decision makers outside of the water sector, and then there are the everyday decision makers, the folks that are just turning on their tap and not really thinking about it and are just trying to get through their day and pay their bills and pick up their kids from school and all of that, right? In the people in the room, how many of you would you say are decision makers in the water sector? Okay. How many of you are decision makers outside of the water sector? And I'm thinking elected officials, county commissioners, city council members, corporate leaders. How about your everyday decision makers? All right, so a shy amount of hands, evenly distributed across this room. In any case, those are the 3 categories. Well, the Water Fluency program is intended for those decision makers outside of the water sector, the elected officials, the corporate leaders, the legislators as well, to give them a 101 on important water terminology so that as they're faced with making complex decisions, for example, how to meet their future water demands or how to conserve or how to diversify their water portfolio, that they have the language to even have the conversation. So that program will be piloting this fall. And if you're interested in it, I'd encourage you to come look on our website. The second part of leadership is the Texas Water Leaders Program. And I'm really, really proud to say that we are launching this program officially in 3 weeks' time, where 20 emerging water leaders from across Texas, including 2 from the Panhandle, and yes, specifically the Panhandle. Oh no, that's not true. 1 from the South Plains and 1 from the Panhandle, that's right. We'll be getting together to develop more leadership skills. And the thought process behind that is increasingly, as we are met with complex decisions, it's not enough anymore to have a degree in water science or to be the best water lawyer. It takes a lot more to be a really strong leader, and we want to make sure that we're investing in that next generation of water leaders. So this is a little bit what that curriculum looks like. It's based around 3 different modules. The first is your traditional leadership skill set. So your executive management skills, your financial literacy. I joke with Steve as well, when I joined Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts, I went home every day with a stomach ache because while I knew groundwater policy, I didn't know how to read financial statements. And sometimes that's required of you if you step into a position of leadership. The second is your internal leadership skills, things like conflict resolution and effective communication skills and EQ. These are also very important leadership skills. And the third is more of a curated multidisciplinary look at Texas water. So just because you're coming from groundwater doesn't mean that you understand surface water. Just because you're coming from surface water doesn't mean that you understand how a utility has to put together its rates in order to meet its overhead and still achieve sustainability. So the intention is to bring out of that every year a class of about 20 really strong emerging water leaders that are better equipped to step into positions of leadership, because I'm gonna pick on you for a moment, CE. We have a whole bunch of really astounding water leaders that are getting close to retirement. And to use Dr. Robert Mace's favorite groundwater pun, we're all gonna be in a cone of depression when you retire. Which means that you have to start investing in that next generation so that they're well equipped to step into those difficult decisions and to inherit the legacy of our really phenomenal water leaders. On the policy front, our intention is again to specifically look at those decision makers outside of the water sector. We have extraordinary advocacy groups and extraordinary academic institutions that put out really innovative and cutting-edge research on water policy initiatives and research. But sometimes that's not digestible for decision makers that are not as familiar with that jargon. So we're going to be building a policy institute that specifically is designed for providing issue briefs to those decision makers that need something that's a little bit more, shall we say, snackable. One-page issue briefs. What's the main pulse on what's happening, right? And all of this with the intention of helping people make better informed decisions. The third policy area is around education. And this is where it's going to get much more exciting than all the things that I just shared with you. Our goal is to invite all Texans to rethink how they value water and ultimately to get them to act in a way that we are conserving and acting more efficiently with our valuable resource. So what we've decided to do, and we've in part inherited this effort, is to launch a Texas Water campaign. And this is a continuation of an effort that has been ongoing for a number of years and kind of an evolution of a program that you may already be familiar with called Water IQ. And Water IQ, the premise around that was the more that people understand their water, the more they're going to value it. Oh, yes. This whole switching between slide things was a really poor decision. So how do you design an effective water education campaign? Well, what we think is that you tap into a formula that has been very well tested here in Texas called Pride plus Action. It turns out that Texas is one of the best marketed concepts in the nation. People are very proud to be of Texas. They have a very strong sense of landscape and of stewardship, and it's a really good idea to tap into that. And there is a particular campaign that y'all might be familiar with who did a really good job with using the formula of Pride plus Action. You may not know this, but Don't Mess with Texas is an anti-littering campaign. Anybody in this room not know that? Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Well, people all over the world think that Don't Mess with Texas is part of our anthem here because it's become so synonymous with what Texas is, right? And so what they did is in the 80s is they came up with this campaign and they used famous faces like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Willie Nelson and put out a bunch of public service announcements that basically said something to the effect of, if you're a real Texan, don't throw out your trash onto the highway. So there was a time when it was not uncommon to see litter on the side of Texas highways. And because of this campaign, which is still run by the Texas Department of Transportation and is funded through appropriations, they saw a reduction of 70% of littering on Texas highways. Okay, so this only to say, there is a direct impact to the way that people start to feel about a resource and about Texas. So keep that Pride plus Action in mind. So what we need is a statewide water education campaign that addresses the fact that Texas comes in all shapes and sizes, and water is a little bit more complicated than littering, right? There isn't one issue or one solution to it. There's drought, there's flood, there's subsidence, there's everything in between, and it's very different based on place to place. So we need a campaign that's flexible enough to address all that nuance and still have that action component of it. So we've been scratching our heads on this for a while. And what we found out from Water IQ is that there are very different groups. They polled folks in Texas, and they found out that there's some people that are really concerned about the quality of water, cleaning it up. Other people that are really concerned with running out of water. That's the drought component. There are other people that are like, why should I change my ways? Why does it affect me? Or I don't really care, right? So there are all these different demographics, and you gotta affect all of them. So the campaign concept is to invite all Texans to realize that everything we love about Texas is rooted in water. So regardless of whether you care about the environment, or all you really care about is Texas football and barbecue, or you really just care about the fact that we have one of the strongest economies in the world, making the connection that without water, you don't have any of those things is really crucial. So Roy's formula, Roy is the guy who developed Don't Mess with Texas, make them care, and then ask them to do something about it. So here's the campaign concept that we're playing with right now. Texas Runs on Water. Texas Runs on Water would be the umbrella campaign that would tie everybody together with the ability to customize it based on your particular location. So it could be, for example, Amarillo runs on water, Houston runs on water, the Astros run on water. And I'm gonna show you a couple examples of what that might look like. We could have a poster that's up there that says water, the lifeblood of Texas. And I was told recently that it shouldn't look like South Texas is somehow being cut off in this picture, but you get what I'm saying here. We could see it on the backs of trucks, or of course on Yetis, because apparently a good marketing campaign has to pass the Yeti test. If it looks good on a Yeti, apparently it's gonna do good. We might see Texas parks use it. We might see regions of Texas use it. The Hill Country runs on water. We might see football teams start to use it. We might see sectors of the economy start to use it. It's an invitation for more people to become water champions, to tie everything together. And of course, everything in Texas is local control, right? So we figured that would be a stronger suit towards success. This is what a social media campaign might look like. So if you're targeting the people that are really concerned about running out of water, you would say, hey, make a splash, but make it last. Stay aware of how many gallons you're using, and you would use that umbrella campaign. The folks that don't want to change their ways, maybe you specifically give them an article that says 7 revolutionary ways to stop the bleeding on your monthly water bill, right? So you specifically target that group. For folks who are interested in the water quality, enjoy a lake without speed bumps, keep our water clean, and keep Texas running smooth. And finally, for the people that say, hey, water's really not my problem, I don't care at all, you make a joke about it and you say 10 ways to use your boat after the lake goes dry, and get people to start just making that connection. So where are we now? We have created a stakeholder committee. Of course, everything that we do in Texas is ground up stakeholder committees. We have utilities from across the state. We have partner organizations that have come together and have looked across a series of campaigns. They said, hey, we like this idea of Texas Runs on Water. We can use it in conjunction with our local education campaigns. So we took all of that and we took it out across to state polling. And the state polling just came back, and what we found, a couple of key findings. The first thing that we found was, that Texas Runs on Water was generally liked, and more importantly, that our hypothesis that the more specific the message was to somebody's personal hometown, the more they reacted to it and the more they indicated that they would take action. The second thing, or to kind of prove that, I know y'all can't see this. This is a heat map, and basically there's different topics around it, and people were asked to choose the top 3 activities that they associated with water. And it goes around, and there's like, drinking and bathing and government and industry and ag, and it's supposed to show what people associated with it. And what you'll see is that there's some outliers right there at the top, kind of in between noon and 2 o'clock. And what that shows is that people associated drinking and bathing with 70 to 80% more than any other activity to water, which means people associate it with the way that they interact with it on a day-to-day basis. So make it tangible in the way that water influences everything you do. The other thing that the survey found is that pride plus action is still a correct motivator, and that complex messages need the action components. You have to combine it with the ask. What are you asking people to do? What Roy's formula says is you spend the first year or two establishing a brand identity, so the way that people feel an associated pride with it, and then you start asking people to do something about it. And the last key finding is that apparently worry goes a long way. So for reducing water usage, worry plus concern were the two biggest drivers. So the more worry that people felt, the more they were going to do something about it. So what comes up next? Pilot markets. So we've done our stakeholder groups, we've done our surveys, market surveys, and now what we need to do is we need to find a couple of pilot markets. And part of the reason why I'm here today is I think the Panhandle would make a great pilot market, right, see? So I'd love to see social media campaigns. I'd love to see some point of purchase tags as well. So whether it's at your local Home Depot or whatever it is, that you could have some sort of an education campaign. I think it would be a really great idea to engage some brand ambassadors on this, and you think that it's a far cry, but I think we have a good shot with Matthew McConaughey, or maybe not Beyonce, but definitely Chuck Norris. He does have a water bottle company now. And as we all know, in the world of social media, influencers make people care about things a lot more. You could see it on water towers across the state as well. And this is kind of what I'm giving you a soft pitch on what I think could be a really cool campaign for the Panhandle. You could have it for individual groundwater district. But I want to circle back to the very starting point of this, which is to say the most important thing that we need to remember is that people are the ones that make decisions ultimately, and we've got a goal of 45% of our future water supplies are going to come from conservation, so we need to start to get into the hearts and the minds of people and make them connect the fact that, that Texas runs on water. Imagine that Energizer bunny in your head. So I'm going to end this presentation with a potentially embarrassing reading of the manifesto, which is what the marketing, the creative team in Austin says is the message, the storyline behind what this campaign might be. But just to give you a sense of where we're going with it. Black gold Texas tea. The Lone Star State has long been known for its most famous liquid commodity, but the one that truly fuels our lives here in the Lone Star isn't a fuel at all. From our industries to our dinner tables, it's the agua that really keeps Texas afloat. It's the lifeblood of our state. Our economy, our health, our day-to-day life as we know it depends on what's flowing right beneath our feet. From the hill country to the coast, the Panhandle to the basin, water runs deep in the heart of Texas. And thank goodness it does, because it gets hotter than a jalapeno out here. Our water is what wets our whistles, washes our cars, and catches us when we let go of that rope swing. It's a right for every Texan, but it deserves to be treated like a gift, because if it ever dried up, there wouldn't be a Texas worth singing about. But if we respect it enough to keep it flowing, it'll keep Texas running. How do you feel about that? You like it? Cool. All right. So I'm going to end by saying I think our most important conservation strategy is to invest in people, to invest in the next generation, make sure that they are well equipped to face complex decisions, and to make sure that everybody realizes that what we love about Texas is rooted in water. Y'all come visit us on the website, sign up if you'd like updates, and thank you so much for your time.